And then if everyone's here and we're happy with everyone that's arrived, the number of people that have arrived, okay, then I'll get started. So yeah, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. So
here we go.
okay, so I'm just gonna reduce who I can see in the view. Okay, so yeah, today's presentation is called, oh, and you can start the recording any minute now, Vicki, if you.
Too late. I've already started this.
Okay, all good then. Okay, so today's presentation is called Diversate Roles, Common Goals, Working with Multiple Generations in the Workplace. First, I'm just going to go through some announcements from STC. Right now is membership season. Now is your chance to renew your STC membership for 2022 so that you can get the full year of membership benefits. Tomorrow from 12 to 2 p.m. we have an interactive workshop called Zoom Proof Your Presentations with Lisa Gurin. I've just heard that she's sent out some some worksheets or handouts for people to work on ahead of the presentation. So make sure if you'd like to join us, or if you'd like to join that presentation, just try to work on those. On next Tuesday, November 9th, from 6 to 7, the Community Affairs Community is hosting their open house. It's a chance for all STC members and leaders to find out what the CAC is all about. On the 12th, November 12th, we have the IDL SIG, the Instructional Design and Learning SIG, is hosting our open house.
Yay!
You can kind of come learn what we're all about. Yeah.
Everybody's invited.
Yes.
Yeah, come join us and find out what we do. The leadership team is having our meeting on November 17th. And our next First Fridays at 5 meetup is December 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we're having the TechCom Nightmare Before Christmas. So,
yay!
So I think it's going to be a fun time with more senior TechCom professionals telling us about their worst mishap in TechCom, and students like myself doing the judging, for which is really the worst. So yeah, if we jump into the presentation, feel free to discuss and share any thoughts that you have while we're going through that. So yeah, we're just talking about like the diversity of ages in the workplace. Working with a variety of ages means working with different perspectives. So kind of just an overview of what we're talking about today. We'll talk about different generations represented in the workplace. What is ageism? How we might address it. How different age demographics define respect, because that's a thing that comes up. And there are just what ways can employees bond across generations. So yeah, first I'm just going to talk about some the different generations that we find in the workplace. Keep in mind that this classification is just a social construct. It's just kind of a loose classification of different generations. So it's different people say different things about the generations, so you might not identify with everything stated about your age group. I certainly don't agree with everything that's said about my demographic. So with that being said, traditionalists are generally age 75 or older. They're very respectful of authority. They recognize that they worked hard to get to their position. Something that's really awesome is that they stay with their employers for a long time, and so they prefer traditional methods of communication like in-person meetings and handwritten notes. Baby boomers, the next younger group, is age 57 to 74. They're thought to be great team players. They prefer leadership tactics like empowerment and collaboration. They often are skeptical of authority, but they place high value on their personal experience. and that's definitely warranted when they have like 40 years of experience in the workplace. Generation X is usually age 41 to 56. They're thought to be like the latchkey generation, so often the children of divorced parents. As a result, they've often turned out to be self-reliant, efficient, and hardworking. So what people are saying about millennials these days is that they care about growth and development and autonomy and challenge. They also want supportive bosses who care about their well-being and job engagement, and not just the financial goals of the generation. Generation Z can range from ages 9 to 24. They vary a lot in their stage of life from elementary school to early career, but generally they say that Gen Z is very dependent on technology. They care about diversity, individuality, and personal expression, perhaps because it's been more of a norm to us throughout life, that we always have lots of globalization, and there's room for diversity there, and just personal expression in different ways. So I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into Gen Z, just because they're kind of a new beast in the workforce, and the next few years they'll be saturating the workplace more often. And so kind of just to give you an introduction to what we could say they're all about. Sometimes what people are saying about Generation Z is contradictory. So for example, they'll often say that Gen Z is a digital generation. Our lives are on our phones, like we do everything from managing school assignments to like booking an Uber, all from our phone, and we're just very comfortable using technology for all of that. But on the other hand, we also prefer in-person work, not necessarily remote or digital roles. So that includes having training, receiving feedback, and just receiving general communication in person. Another like curiosity about Gen Z is regarding finances. So many are fiscally conservative. They spend carefully, they choose stable jobs and make smart investments just so that they can have a bit more financial security. I can definitely relate to that like I just bought a car, and like that was after I'd done some research about what was important in a car, and just being careful about what I could afford, and kind of being careful in that regard. Whereas other in Gen Z are more risk tolerant and entrepreneurial. They prefer flexibility of occupations like gig work and owning small businesses. Yeah, so that's kind of something interesting. And if we look at more older generations, a problem facing workers in older age groups is ageism, which is of course discrimination of people based on chronological age. Workers over the age of 40 are more likely to face discrimination in this regard. It's more difficult to find jobs than younger employees, even if they are qualified for positions. And even once they do have, even as they do land a job and they do keep a job, they often face myths that they are of lower quality to their organization. Something important is that these are myths. Like everyone in each age group is different, and everyone has a niche somewhere. Definitely something that a way that I saw this come up was that I heard a manager at my workplace saying that like this one employee I believe he's in his 50s. He knows everything about the job, how to do his job, but he's this old man. He's really slow on the computer, and it's like, so you might think like it's just like, yeah, I kind of think that that's a way that we kind of see somebody who has a niche. Like, okay, he does know everything about how to do the job. He's worked at the company for 12 years. Like he knows everything. I mean, he does, like, from what I see, like that 29-year-old manager who is saying that does treat the that older gentleman better, but I don't know, you might not see that in as much of a positive light as I do. I just thought that that was a kind of an example of kind of having a niche at work. But still, ageism can be subtle and socially acceptable. So like why that manager was allowed to say like, oh yeah, this older guy is an old man at work, he's too slow on the computer, and it can, if you're not careful, it can certainly be a point of discomfort for people. So to address this kind of discrimination, you don't just hear what is said about people, but listen to all perspectives and focus on different benefits that people offer. More mature workers often have great wisdom on handling workplace politics. They're better at communicating, and they have helpful traits like caution and level-headedness. And I think, you know, sense of humor is often a strong point as well. Another tactic that you could use for addressing ageism is recognizing similarities across generations, like how we all desire to receive fair pay and create a better quality of life for ourselves. Something else that comes up when we're talking about cross-generational differences is that a survey showed that different generations defined respect differently. So for example, older people were more likely to answer that respect comes with age, whereas younger folks were more inclined to answer that respect can be a mutual understanding regardless of age or seniority. As in, age respect is something gained by treating people well and making good decisions. So just favorable character and actions. So if we were to talk about how we can address this discrepancy or this point of disagreement, we might want to still try to give the people the respect that everyone wants. So younger people might show respect for older workers' experience, whereas
it's not because of your love life.
Pardon? Okay. Older folks can respect the talent, character, and potential of younger people.
I need to,
something else.
Ruth-Ann, I need to interrupt you just a little bit. We were getting just a little bit of noise, and so I muted everybody. You're welcome to speak up. I just want to make sure that you do it on purpose. So thanks for letting me interrupt. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah. Do I need to speak any louder, do you mean, or just speak up?
Oh, you're doing great.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
I keep waiting for you to insult me, and you haven't yet, so I'm good with it.
Oh, okay. This is good. Okay. When we get intentional about not only just showing respect in little ways with different people, but when we get intentional about bonding with different people, it can be fruitful for all involved. One example is traditional mentoring, which is where an older person or a person with greater seniority can pass on their wisdom to a younger person. And that also gives the less experienced person a leg up in their professional life. Something that's a little different and a little bit newer to the workplace is reverse mentoring, which is where a younger person helps out somebody with greater seniority, and they often can help the older person in technology or other skills that they can use in their careers. So whereas the mentoring relationships can often be one-sided, with one person helping another, kind of with like a network, cross-generational networking also involves building relationship, but it's more like the participants are equals. So, but it's still, just like in the mentoring relationship, the elder gets to share what they know and upgrade their skills and knowledge, and younger people get to learn from an older person and potentially advance their career. So it can be a really great thing if you can take advantage of that kind of opportunity. Yeah, so in general, working with people of different ages can be challenging, but also an opportunity for growth and development. Yeah, that's all I have today. Thanks so much for listening. So.
Did we lose Ruth-Ann?
No, I'm done.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so I just that was all I have for today. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and
That was really interesting.
oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'll just stop screen sharing, and you can. Awesome. Yeah. So did it like kind of confirm what you were thinking, or kind of contradict what? Confirm, contradict what you what your intuition was?
I think a lot of people don't do what you say we ought to, which is just trust that every generation or every group of people every person has something to offer one way or the other, right? And we tend to generalize and make these generalizations, which are not true at all, but we do it to save mental time, and they're not true. Generalizations aren't true about individuals. So it's, you have to be open to the fact that everybody's different.
Totally, yeah. You never know. Sorry, I'm trying to think you never know like who's gonna. Sometimes it's older people that are like great with technology, and young people like me are need help with technology. Like it's just yeah, you never know like who can help who, I guess. Yeah.
But in general, I mean, I think that there are definitely traits, and I think a lot of it is just what happened to them when they were, what was the personality formed in the first 5 years, I guess. Isn't Freud, I think. Might be Jung, but I think it's Freud. And the other thing that I've heard, I don't know if you want to share your opening slide that showed the different generations, that every generation rebels against the previous because that was their parents. But they love their parents' parents. They have an affinity for their grandparents. They want to be more like their grandparents. And so like traits tend to skip a generation, right? So the Generation X, the latchkey kids, they want more structure, just like the traditionalists, and us baby boomers and the millennials, we're more loosey-goosey on certain things. I like to question rules, and if they, because I'm a hippie chick, right? And so we stick it to the man and all that kind of stuff. And millennials seem to be more like boomers, right? And Generation Z, then we don't know a whole lot about them yet, but they're going to be more like Gen X and traditionalists. Have you guys ever heard that? What do you think of that?
Yeah,
That does.
I hadn't heard it before.
no,
Yeah,
I can see though.
Yeah.
I had heard that to, like anything else, to a point.
It's a generalization.
Yeah, it's a generalization. That's right.
That's what I love to
But
do.
the one that has always irritated me is assuming that boomers and older won't be good with technology. Well, who created it in the first place?
Yeah, people.
I mean,
We put a man on the moon for you.
some of us were back there doing key punch stuff in high school.
Yeah.
Um,
I think some of the time. Sorry, continue.
Oh no, I was just going to say we grew up with this stuff too, and doing it and creating it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, you designed it. No, I think that some of the time, I mean, just as the nature of aging, that's a fact, is that your coordination is not as fast as it used to be.
Sure.
And I know for
that's
myself,
true.
I know for myself, like I get pissed off at my phone regularly or the remote
Mm,
because I think something
mhm.
should happen faster because my finger is not responsive to my phone as fast. And so I have a hissy fit. And my partner's like, patience, please. Just like, don't press it so often, it's going to happen. And then I look at my parents, it's like, well, they're having a crappy fit because we expect, it's just the response of our body is not the same. So it's more not the fact that we
Right.
can't use the technology, it's just not working the way we expect it to work. And therefore we feel incompetent. And that's my push for saying it's not that my parents can't use the technology, it's that their responses are different than someone 50 years
Sure,
younger.
I do understand it. Yeah, and we maybe don't learn things quite as quickly as we did when we were younger either. Um, especially if it does have to do with physical skills, but or adapt quite as quickly. But some of us are still trying to.
I think old dogs can learn as many tricks as they want. And it's your mindset. I don't know. My dad's 70 and he's like biking. Yeah.
We also
Sorry?
have less. Right, yeah. We also have even less patience for bad user experiences than we did when we were younger. I mean, not that we ever had much patience for it, but we really don't have patience for it now because we just don't have time.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you're saying,
Mhm.
the frustration is but you might internalize some of that instead of just saying, this is a bad user experience. This is bad design or bad, something is wrong there on the technology side of it. Not on the user side of it necessarily.
Because the user's doing it perfectly fine, right?
Well, and Bobby, you guys have brought up something that's really interesting that I've noticed. So I have to have, as far as technology goes, I've noticed that my vision, because I'm 62 and so I don't see like I did when I was, 11, 12. So I have to have glasses for being in the world, right? These are the ones I can drive in and read in. And then I have these glasses. These are my computer glasses. That way I don't have to tilt because like with the progressive lenses, they're different heights on your lens are different distances away. So if I were to try to use them I might as well demonstrate while we're talking about all my defects here. So to be able to see things high on the screen, I have to move my head, right?
Mhm.
And I have to move my neck. And so with these, everything is, I can't drive and I can't read, but I can see my screen really well. And I don't have to move my head. I can just move my eyes up and down. And then now I'm noticing even my reading glasses aren't good enough for like the small print on my phone. And so I end up doing, this. And so basically I have 3 pairs of glasses depending on the size of the print and so my user experience is very much now dependent on my eyes and the font that's used. Some fonts are more readable, and the size of the font's really important and how much white space they've used. And so all of these design techniques that I've been learning, in my years as a technical writer, all of a sudden, when people don't use them, Bobby, you were talking about, the user experience is the thing. I'm assuming it was Bobby. Anyway, the user experience is the thing now, because like if it's a bad user experience, I'm getting very little out of it. So
Yep.
all of these people that I made
Yeah, it
fun
was
of.
Marianne saying that.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Marianne.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, Vicki.
you-
But I'm with you on the eyes thing. But that's the thing. I was there really badly a few years ago, and then I had cataract surgery, and changed my world. But I still need glasses for that little bit of close vision. And I have progressives for the same reason. And there's still some astigmatism. So yeah, it's the same thing. And you need a whole lot more light than you ever used to. And you still want high contrast. So that trend towards low contrast font against background, I don't see how that's good for anybody, but especially those of us getting up there. And
you
I have a
the
few years on you.
And you have the purchasing power too.
Not necessarily.
Yes.
Pardon?
Not necessarily.
Well, more than, I guess, some demographics.
That's true across all
Yeah.
ranges.
Yeah.
No, everybody who's past a certain age is not well off, believe me.
Oh, no, I just like if you the baby boomers are getting large, like the population is getting larger, so it's just more people who actually they're going to buy if they need an app. That app needs to be suited for more people than just a 50-year-old.
Yes.
Or a 25-year-old.
I did find that as my eyesight got worse, I tended to go more towards technology and learning new things. Like for my quilting, I never bothered to figure out how to use the machine threader, the automatic threader, until I couldn't see anymore. Then I bothered to learn the technology.
Makes sense.
If I can jump in, these are my computer glasses because after I've worked in the virtual world since 2002, so I've liked to say I'm not a baby of COVID because I know it was, virtual new to everybody. But I find ever since I got my computer glasses, they make me smile when they put them on because they're colorful and I can actually see things. I don't have to squint or look, like everything is just fabulous for working. But if I may just turn the conversation a little bit away from technology, something you said, Ruth-Anne, that really struck me, because I guess being a Generation Xer, I was raised to respect my elders. I cannot call my parents friends. I'm of Polish origin. Maybe it's a bit of an ethnic thing too. I cannot call them by their first names. So now I see the 15 and 16-year-olds referred to like, Mary and John or Lisa and Mary, like and not Mr. or Mrs. with that kind of feels weird to me. But what I like about what really struck me about what you said is that age, did I write this down wrong? Respect. When you're older, respect comes with age, but the younger generations, you used another word, but I only caught mutual understanding. And I love that I think it's just so modern and I think it just makes so much more sense and it's just more human and more nice. Like, so, just that contrast just really, really kind of struck me. And I guess I was convoluted in giving you my example where I still, call my friends' parents Mr. or Mrs. something because I just can't. And they like, call me Judy, call me Greg. It just doesn't feel natural to me. And maybe it was because of the conditioning that I got growing up that age respect comes with age. So to be respectful, you use a salutation. So that struck me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like what's the name that you know them by. I would have trouble. I when I went from high school to university, one of my teachers actually recommended me to the university where his wife was teaching, and that was the university I went to. And I still can't, even though his I guess just because it's a very small university, he was still involved in these little meetups with the biology department that I was in, and I just could not call Mr. Craker like by his first name, Ken. And like my professor, his wife was like, "Oh, you can call him Ken now." No, I can't. It might be a respect thing. It might be a conditioning thing. It just, that's it's just it's just definitely what you're used to, and that's really hard to break out of that.
I like the tradition in the American South for dealing with that and calling them, it would be, Miss Judy or Mr. Ken. But that kind of helps a little bit. But yeah, I think we've all gone through that. I did like that, your comment about that too, of respect not just being based on age or seniority, but there being mutual respect, mutual understanding. And I think especially in the workplace, respect, true respect is earned by your achievement, you've by what you show you can do or have done. There might be some that is inherent starting out in age or position, but to keep it, certainly it has to be proven. And I think that that's probably true everywhere, but I think really, especially in the workplace.
I think you can treat people with respect, but you don't have to respect them. And I think that respect is very much earned.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, like maybe like you can treat people decently just because that's who you are, but that doesn't mean you have to trust them, doesn't mean you have to like trust their opinions, you wouldn't take their advice. Is that kind of
Mhm. Mhm. But at least not immediately dismiss their advice, at least
Yeah.
treat them with civility and
Yeah.
listen to it. Yeah.
It's an interesting divide between who you are in the relationship and who they are. If they do not command your respect, but you can still treat them respectfully, that's a reflection on you. So a lot of, I think what you're saying is what you bring, who you want to be, kind of person you want to be in a relationship.
Sure. That's a good point.
Great point, yeah.
I was wondering, so back to Barbara's question about the Mr. and Mrs. comment. Has anyone worked with people overseas recently in Europe, maybe? No?
I have a student who's in Europe.
How do they, that's Melissa that asked?
Yeah.
How do they refer to you?
Well, we don't do much face to face. Sorry, probably doesn't apply.
Okay. No, I guess, in their emails to you. I asked because I was recently doing, nursing students were practicing interviewing with me, and I received an email from one of them, and I was called Mrs. Nickel. And I almost fell over and punched a wall because I am not a Mrs. for one, and that's my maiden name, and that assumption. And I was like, where you guys, I set me off into a tailspin. And when I was responding, I was like, oh, don't stage first, don't assume my gender, and don't assume my marital status when you communicate. And I talked to the student after, and she said she's originally from France, and they had moved away from the Mr. and Mrs. sort of concept, but now there was a big backlash, and now they're moving. If you don't know the person ever, if you've never met them, you automatically go for that Mrs. for people who seem like they should, they will be a female. And I was very surprised. It seems sort of very regressive in that sort of way. And I was like, what? I said, in Canada, you might want to get some more direction on that. And the rest of the students said, yeah, we would never be calling everyone Mrs. that we've never met before. That's not how we would be done here. So it was just sort of a completely different. It totally caught me off guard about that. And I was just sort of, I'm thinking maybe to Barbara's, sort of, it could be age, could be cultural, but Italian France are going back to Mrs.
Yeah, could be academic versus business too, because I mean, in an academic setting rather than in a business setting, because I've had several clients, European clients, or they were usually, the European office of a client company based in the States, but not always. Some were based, in Europe, and it was almost always quite casual, but that might have just been what the relationship was. And I think Canada, my experience is that the Canadians are a bit more formal than those of us in business dealings anyway. than those of us in the States to begin with. Is that not, maybe not? Melissa, you don't think so? No.
I personally don't agree.
No?
No, not really. I mean, there's generationally, there are older people
Sure.
are a little bit more formal, I would think. But I think the younger ones are just as relaxed as Americans are.
Okay. Okay.
With
And-
my
and there's-
student, sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
I was just gonna say with my student, there's very little opportunity for them to even use my last name ever. Because
Okay.
everything I send out is just signed Melissa.
Okay.
And so, yeah, in terms of what Christy was asking, I would be I would also be taken aback if someone wrote me and said Ms. Rourke or Mrs. Rourke or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, I use Ms. for everybody other than men.
Oh, yeah,
or-
absolutely.
But I also find that it's wonderful that everybody's putting their pronouns. So it's becoming so much more normal that people who don't use she and her or he and his, it's easier for them to post that kind of information.
Mhm.
And it's wonderful.
Right. Yeah. And there's also a different level of formality often between written and spoken communication too.
Mhm. That's for sure.
If I may just add on, since I seem to have opened this Pandora's box. First, I didn't want to be insensitive in any way by defaulting to a Mr. and Mrs. as a salutation, because as I've been listening, I graduated for my master's in 2004, so it's been a while. And even when I go to the university and I see, notwithstanding a few professors that I'm friendlier with and I can call them by their first name, I still refer to Professor so-and-so and Professor so-and-so when they say, call me Stephen. It's like, I can't. So I just think it's also, I think on some level, it's contextual to the time that I was raised, and it's so ingrained in me that it's hard for me, and I'm conscious of it, but it's like, no, Professor Shaw, I can't call you Stephen. I just can't. You're Professor Shaw to me all the time. Even I'm out now for, 16, 17 years. Let's do the math. So just in terms of just addressing people, that whole idea of respect. And I think it goes a little bit to what Bobby said as well, as like who you want to be to them. Like, I think it's that underlying relationship on some level. And I don't know. Perhaps it's just me.
No, it isn't just you. I remember going through that too. I also went to a very small university, and we were quite close friends with some faculty members who, after we were out of school and had been out several years, would say, please, we're peers. And it was very, very difficult. In fact, I don't know that we ever quite got to it, to the first name basis. Or, well, maybe now, but 40 some years later.
I tend to be a little verbose. Can I jump in? Or Vicky, you got off mic. You go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw out this thing because what you call people is a big thing for me and for my family, and probably for other things like that, right? Because I changed my name in the 8th grade. And my brother changed his name, I'm going to say, when he went to college, right? My son changed his name also when he went to college. And so I did a bit of research, and Ms. Manners, because I'm a baby boomer, and so we grew up on Ms. Manners telling us what's rude and what's not rude. And what she says is that as individuals, we need to come up with a first name for ourselves, or what we want people to call us, by the time we get out of high school, right? So if you were born Brandon and yet your kinfolk called you Bubba, you have to decide, do you want to go by your middle name? Do you want to be Brandon? Do you want to be Bubba, right? By the time you get out of high school. And whatever people call you when they first meet you is generally what they're going to continue to call you, unless they do the heroic effort, like you were saying, Marianne and Barbara, to learn to call them something different, right? So if you're at your family reunion and everybody still calls you Bubba, they're not being rude. That's just how they learned your name. And so because they're not being rude, according to Ms. Manners, who knows what's rude, you can't get an attitude about it, right? You have to forgive them and love them because they're basically calling you by your name on purpose because they love you. So theirs must be.
Mhm.
I know I contend with the double whammy. Because,
Oh, I'll bet you do.
well, pronouncing my first name, and that's how I know people who are on the phone and they say, hello, Marcia, and I'm going, no,
No.
and they go away. But here in South Carolina, Shannon is a first name. And I have had more people challenge me when they say, what's your last name? And I tell them my last name. No, I need your last name. And
As if you don't know what it is.
Yes,
Jeez.
yes. And I finally developed, oh, you want my last name? It's Shannon. And we go into this whole silliness, and and it comes back to respect, because the first point in respecting anyone is listening.
Mhm.
And we've all got so many things going on. We're not being disrespectful, but we're too distracted.
Mhm.
And it's finding those nanoseconds of stop being distracted, give this person 30 seconds, it's going to be fine. That makes everything work better.
Mhm.
But it's a constant reminder in the back of my head. All right, slow down. It's okay. I still don't
Well.
trust anybody over 30. I mean, it's just ingrained. I
We
wasn't
were raised that way.
I was deeply, deeply in the background with those things, but yes, rock and roll forever, of course.
You are dating yourself, woman.
Well,
Oh, I'm sure I've got you beat.
I like
Hey, fun discussion, everyone. Thank you. I've got hungry pups demanding to be fed. So see you later.
Bye.
You bet. Take care, Marianne.
Bye, Marianne. Thanks for joining us. Hey, you guys have brought up the subject of names, and I wanted to steer this conversation in a little bit of a different direction. There was a big scandal at our local high school because we had a number of trans students graduate, and they refer to their old name, the name that's on their birth certificate, say, as their dead name, and they want to be called by their, I'm not sure, but anyway, they don't want to be called by their dead name. And we had a few students that had their dead names on their diplomas. And I was just wondering what you guys think about that. Do the same rules that apply to Bubba versus Brandon apply to someone
Right,
who's
well,
choosing a different identity, and so that they need a new name?
Speaking
I
as
think they have to go by the legal name at that time, because most trans people do legally change their names eventually. But in terms of even genealogical records and things like that, you can really blur history. And I think the school sort of has a legal obligation to deal with you under that name. My kid changed her name when she, as soon as she graduated, but her diploma does say her original birth name. She just didn't like her name, and someone else had christened her 4 or 5 years before with a different name, and it stuck, and she ended up using that has used that for the rest of her life. It's kind of weird, but I semi-sympathize because I was raised as Missy, and none of you will call me that.
no, ma'am.
But when I went to university, I finally felt grown up enough to go by Melissa. So that's, I mean, that was the way I just was raised, being called Missy. And so I know immediately if someone calls me Missy, we're talking someone that was from my deep dark past, you know, in the misty past. Anyhow, I'll shut up now. Someone else's turn.
I don't know if this is at all helpful. I'm not very I don't know if this is all helpful in regards to like what we should do when somebody changes their name, and like what name what you know, like something, another situation where we change our names is marriage. And so like, would it all be at all helpful if somebody was kind of treated like their dead name like their maiden name, kind of like, okay, they like, not obviously not hyphenating it, but like it somehow like show up in their records? I think that's a really, no, I guess that's not really, there's no way that we could make that work, but
We're already making it work because it's a convention to put people's better known nicknames in parentheses after their formal names.
Yeah.
So you may be Jacko to everybody, but your formal name is John. And I've seen that in a lot of business correspondence, you know,
Okay.
Horatio Rat Boy. Kind of, yeah, I couldn't think of a good example. So we could follow that same thing. The thing is there that a nickname comes from affection, a dead name comes from a whole other place.
That is
And
that is the trouble, is
requires
that
so much more respect and support. But we got to figure out something. You're right.
yeah, that is the trouble, is that they don't want to be that is like, yeah, that is like there's a reason they call it the dead name. It's just, it's not their name anymore. And so yeah.
And minors don't usually have the option of changing their names legally until after they've gone through all these major milestones.
That's true. But a parent can, I mean, if you're a supportive parent, like if my kid came to me and said, I'm changing genders and this is going to be my new name, I'd go, okay, when do we go to the court? You know, like, I'll take you there, because that would be something I could do to show that, you know, I support it. As it was, I called. So what happened is that my daughter had quite an unhappy elementary school experience, grades 1 to 7. And then in the summer between grades 7 and 8, when you switch schools into a senior to the secondary school, she met someone at French camp that was going to be going to her school. And this girl said, you don't look like a Nicole, you look like an Abby. And so Abby became Abby. And our first report card when she came home, grade 8, mid-year, you know, was Abby is this, Abby is that. And it's like, what, who, what, who are they talking about? You know, that kind of thing. So she explained that everybody at school in her new school knew her as Abby, and that was the name she was going to go by. So I jumped on that bandwagon. I think her dad still calls her Nicole, but I mean, when he slips, kind of thing. And what I find is really strange, and here's language for you, is when I'm talking about her when she's a baby, I automatically call her Nicole or Nikki. And then if I'm talking about her as an adult, she's Abby. And so there's like, and I don't think about it, it's subconscious. It's just, that's the way it comes out, kind of thing. I had a little Nikki and now I have a big Abby. And I love her both ways, so it doesn't matter. I liked her name. I mean, I gave it to her, but if she didn't like it, she didn't like it. Someone else say something.
Can I just, I know that time is a ticking, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because I've been looking for different work, and I've been interviewing, and I'm interviewing with people who are like maybe 10, 15, 20 years younger than me. And I don't know if like I'm respecting them, but at the same time, I don't know if anyone else, or once we get up there, or I'm kind of used to working for people older than me. So I don't know if there's just opening up that little Pandora's box.
Well, I'll jump in here since I've been AWOL. Get this, my manager now is the middle daughter of my best friend from high school.
Wow.
I've known her since she was born. It's a good thing we get along.
Yeah.
But I don't call her ma'am or Ms. or anything.
Oh.
And how we ended up working at the same place is another long story.
I don't find that it's changed much in my working relationships with people when I work with younger people. But every so often I'll pull the mom card. It depends on how young they are and what, what's going on. If they get a little raucous or something, I haven't worked in a situation like that for a couple of years, but yeah, every so often I'd say, this is your mom talking. But it's pretty obvious that I was probably 3 times their age kind of thing. Young computer programmers and stuff, but I think there is a basic level of respect that goes along in the workplace. And so, I command that kind of respect, and I give it until they don't earn it anymore. But that's just me.
I'm respectful, but I think what I'm finding myself doing also in these situations when I'm working with, let me consult the list, Gen Z and millennials, I'm like, oh, when I was your age, or I've become my parents, I've become those people when they were telling me those things. So it's just kind of, we're all going in the same direction. We all age, right? And I just think we can all do it with grace. But I just find it's interesting when I consciously catch myself and when I'm consciously aware, like, and I'm being interviewed by someone, I'm like, you're not 40 yet, are you? That's on my mind instead of focusing on, like, sometimes, but I put it aside, but it's just, just want to bring that up. Never invite me back here again. I'm sorry. It's my first time. I've always wanted to come and I didn't mean to.
No,
I've really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on things.
absolutely.
I wanted to say something quickly about what we've been talking about today. Thank you, Ruth-Ann, for bringing up, especially, the ageism, which is something that we have not really discussed. It's always about the younger generations, and it is very true that there is ageism, especially in the workplace. However, I think that one of the things that I learned as an instructor and a faculty at Portland State University here in Oregon is that my students, they had so many wonderful things to report on it. The technical report writing, I had a lot of engineers, and I learned so much from them. And I think that the value of diversity is being able to look at the other person without those Pollyanna glasses on or blinders, but to enjoy the fact that we all have something special about us, no matter what our age is. And it's great to learn about new things, even if you're older. I mean, I love learning about new things. It's just so fascinating to me. So I just love the fact that the diversity can be an age. And I like that part. Thank you for bringing that out, Ruth-Ann. I appreciate it.
That's definitely, definitely been hearing about that a lot when, we went to that presentation with Giacomo Lasani that he, and I think somewhere else I heard that, ageism really is an issue, definitely when you're applying to jobs, and that it's like, okay, and certainly once you're when you have a job as well, just like, okay, this really is like, and it's just something I came across was that, like, it's just like a socially acceptable form of discrimination. So whereas, like, sometimes racism is socially acceptable because, like, it's just, I don't know, you're just joking, like, it's not serious. But ageism can be the same way, that it's just like, I'm just making comments about older people because I can. And
It can be very backhanded, like, not that it just betrays how they actually think. They don't mean it mean, they don't mean it maliciously, but that is how they think. And so when they open their mouth, they're betrayed by what they say.
Well, Melissa, I think all of our discrimination, I mean, I think all of us are well-intentioned, good-thinking people. I think all of our discrimination is unconscious bias, right? And the more that we talk about our unconscious bias, and
yeah, I mean, I I agree with you for probably all the new things that we're becoming aware of. But I mean, there are people who are very proudly prejudiced, or racist. They just, I think, I'm thinking of my dad who's long gone, but he never made any secret about whether he liked people or not of a certain color or a certain origin. Not that he was a nice person about it or anything like that. And I'm certainly not defending him, but I think, again, what comes out of your mouth is kind of how you think. And I have a brother was very influenced by our father. And he said recently, I can't remember what he said exactly, but along the lines of, he was very careful in how he spoke to me because he wouldn't want to offend me. But it's like, well, then don't think that way. If you don't think that way, you're not going to talk that way, right? But that's what he really thinks. It was something about size. He's a real sizist person. Everybody has, women are always large. Why is that guy with that woman, or opposite kind of thing? Like, why is that guy with that woman when he's so ugly and bald and short and, whatever, and she's so gorgeous? That's the kind of thing he would say. Or he would make a remark about a waitress, I mean, it's just, sometimes I get really irritated. And then other times I go, he's 78. I can't change him, and what's the point? But it's interesting that I'm so much more aware of it, because this job and these people have made me aware of it, and other things that I do. But mostly it's through the writing, because it's important that we do write so that everybody is welcome to our writing. Everybody has a right to read what we write and understand it and know what to do with it. And that comes from beyond. And actually I know I'm not even stopping for breath here, but that was something that somebody wrote in Slack earlier this year, that about correcting people's spelling. And it's like, you're assuming that they had the benefit of an education and that they should have had, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, that's an unconscious bias that I have, that you have to be educated or else, and that's actually when I better stop now before I get myself in trouble. Put my foot in my mouth. Thanks, Vicki.
So I'm gonna have to be the bad guy. It's 6:03. I love Ruth-Ann, thank you so much for getting us started with all this talking about our differences, especially those related to age. I love our first Fridays, because people, different people show up different times, and we get to talk about planned things, and then our discussion just goes in an interesting way. And all of you guys are smart, and all of you guys are generous, and I just appreciate it so much. I need to ask the group, is it okay for me to include the whole recording, or do we want just Ruth-Ann's content to be recorded? Because there was some truth spoken in this room today. So
I'm fine with it all being there.
Everybody else?
I'm fine.
I'm fine, yeah.
Oh, Bobby, my name is Marcia.
I didn't dare.
Thank you for asking.
Didn't dare say without knowing. So thank you.
We often write her name as mar.ci.a so that we remember, because a lot of us, myself included, are very guilty of mispronouncing it.
Well, and if you only see it written, there's no reason for you to know how I want it said. So
Right.
That doesn't bother me. If I've known you for 5 years and you keep calling me something else, I get a little sad.
Marcia,
Mhm.
yeah.
Marcia.
My name's Christy,
Yes.
and my last name's Nickel. There's no E, there's no H, there's no S. It's a K-R and I-E. I have become Nicole Christie. I've had every single combination. And if you can't
Mhm.
find, if I can't find something in the nickel, try the Christie, because you probably
Yes.
mispositioned it because you think, so I
CHRIS,
don't know
yeah.
what my name is.
It's
So,
just
Yeah.
hilarious. It's just so hilarious. And, you know,
Well,
Yeah.
one little story before I go. Someone actually wrote me a note the other day addressed to MELISA. And most of you know I'm LLS, which is odd, and it's not my fault. My mom did it. I was too young to object. But she went to the trouble of, like, because her spell check wouldn't have let that go through, right? So I'm trying to decide if it was a slam, but I hope not. Anyhow, there you go.
You can just imagine how my name gets misspelled.
oh
So,
my,
Bet. I'll bet. Yeah. And you probably get mistaken for someone of the opposite sex, the gender. I forget which one it is. But yeah.
I worked with
Well,
a fellow
no,
named
and
Lindsay.
the funniest is that, Booby, not Bobby, just
Oh,
really bad typing. So
Anyhow, I'm going to go too. So love you all and thanks for the convo. And thank you, Ruth-Ann. You did a great job. That was a really
very good.
thought-provoking
thank you.
presentation. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mm,
Yep,
bye.
now it's where we unmute and clap.
Oh. Thank you.
Good job, good job.
Thank you
I
so
love
much.
it when you make
Appreciate
us think.